come with us. What is the matter, my American friend? What has upset you? The bad machine doesn't matter if he's a bad machine. I still don't believe it. Still don't believe you're a bad machine. To know yourself is to know God, my friend. The factory knows, that's why they put you here. You'll see. You'll find out. In time, you'll know.
Oh, I know. I already know. I know that you are a bad machine. That's why the factory keeps you here. Do you know how I know? Huh? I know because I'm from the factory. I make the machines.
You're listening to Jim Dynamo's Bad Machine, home of the intellectual smackdown, where thought exists without error and truth knows no compromise. No quarter is asked, and no quarter is given, as the lies that bind us to the bad machine are torn asunder with unassailable fact and unquestionable reason. So put on your thinking caps and strap yourselves in, and stand by for the original man machine, Jim Dynamo.
When your bags ain't packed.
The woman nursed her newborn son, only hours old, in her private galley cabin. This was Grace's fourth child, a son named Tybalt. Tybalt had two half-brothers, Owen and Murrah, and one half-sister named Margaret, but was known as Maeve. They were waiting for their mother and newly born brother at Rockkeep Castle in County Mayo on the west coast of Ireland. The timeless moment was permanently shattered when the woman's ship was attacked by Barbary pirates, Muslim slavers working for the Ottoman Empire, who had dragged over 1 million seafaring European Christians to a life of torture, rape, and slavery. The ship's crew fought gallantly, but were being overwhelmed by the Mohammedan killers. The woman and her newborn son seemed fated to end their lives in chains as slaves to the caliphate. But this fiery red-haired daughter of Aaron would not submit to 7th century cruelty without resistance. She set her son down safely in his crib. She dressed herself quickly. Grabbing her flintlock pistols and swords, she stormed up to the ship's deck and unleashed her fury on the Muslim pirates. So savage was her response to the Ottoman boarding party. She pushed them back, allowing the crew to successfully repel boarders and drive the swarthy pirates back into the sea. The crew cheered and rallied around the scarlet-haired Amazon. They truly loved and respected her. She was their captain, the pirate queen of Ireland, Granuaile, the Dark Lady of Duna, Grace O'Malley. Grace O'Malley was born in the lordship of Umhal, daughter to the seafaring merchant Dudara, the chieftain, also known as Owen O'Malley, in the year 1530. As any might expect, the child of a seafaring man, Grace looked forward to the day when she could accompany her sire on one of his many trips across the sea. Unfortunately, the tradition of sailors forbade females from crewing aboard a ship. Grace would be land-bound for good, it seemed, but at 12 years of age, stubborn and committed to realizing her goal, she stowed away aboard one of her father's merchant ships and would eventually reveal herself when it was too impractical for the ship to return to port. Dudara was impressed at his daughter's courage and daring, so he only shaved off all her long red hair and called her Mahal, Baldy. That taught young Grace not to mess with her dad. At 15, Grace was entered into a politically expedient marriage with Donald of the Battles of Clan O'Flaherty and would bear his 3 children, Owen, Murrah, and Maeve, Theobald's older siblings. Donald would be killed in 1560, and Grace would become leader of the clan. Grace would use her new status to secure a handsome income and lifestyle for her children and herself, and like something from an old wives' tale, while walking on the shores of her father's territories, Grace would find a man, nearly drowned, who had survived a wreck and had washed ashore. He was Hugh de Lacy. Grace O'Malley nursed Hugh de Lacy back to health, and he becomes Grace's companion until he is killed by the rival clan McMahon. Grace earns her reputation for violence when she exacts her bloody and brutal revenge on the McMahons. In 1566, Grace marries Richard in Iron, the chieftain of Clan Burke, and in the same year divorces him, taking over his castle at Rock Keep. Commanding over 50 vessels and more than 200 men, Granuaile would set about to leave her mark on history. Sea travel in the 16th century was for only the bravest and most vile of individuals, as unchecked man-built predator ships traveled from port to port. Piracy as we know it was a norm for all vessels at sea, and all who crossed Poseidon's oceans engaged in the practice of victimizing any unsuspecting ship and crew of its valuable cargo and passengers. Some would be held for ransom if their wealthy families could pay, the others destined for a hard life as a slave. Grace O'Malley would sail her merchant ships, hacking and slashing her way across the deadly waters of the Elizabethan era. Elizabeth I, Queen of England, learned of Grace O'Malley from the many reports from her governor in Ireland, Sir Henry Sidney, as Grace played merry hob, sacking and pillaging rival English ships. The English royals, in their collection of dukes and knights, were not only pirates of the seas, but they were barons of the lands, and unfortunately for the children of Erin, the greedy English expansionists set their eyes on Ireland's green fields as early as 1175 AD, 358 years before Grace was born. Centuries of English invasions and land grabs would set Granny O'Malley on a collision course with the English regent. England wanted Ireland's will broken for more than just simple economic reasons. They wanted Ireland's ancient culture destroyed and expunged, as to permanently erase the Irish's millennia-old history and tradition, replacing it with the then 1100-year-old mythology of the Levant. To make the world England would require them to do their best to erase the Irish, and Grace O'Malley was not about to be pushed aside by Protestant upstarts. In a show of power, Grace O'Malley sacks Desmond and is captured and imprisoned, first in Limerick, then in Dublin Castle, where she languishes until 1578. She's 48 years old when she is released from the royal dungeons, with a promise that she would mollify the rampaging Iron Dick and abstain from raiding English ships. Richard in Iron, though divorced from Grace O'Malley, was still loyal to the mother of his son, and did not allow the English invaders any moment's peace while O'Malley was jailed. Granny returned to Iron Dick's side, and together they wreaked havoc on the English, on the land and on the sea. This outraged the English crown, and they appointed Richard Bingham as Ireland's governor, and he unleashed a brutal campaign on the Irish and O'Malley. Richard in Iron dies in 1583. Bingham lures O'Malley into a trap disguised as a peace negotiation. Her son Owen is murdered, and O'Malley is captured again, this time saved only by the quick battle decisions of her son-by-law, her daughter Maeve's husband. The Dark Lady of Duna has allies in O'Neill and O'Donnell, chieftains who had allies in Catholic Spain. The Spaniards would see England return to the Pope's Roman sway instead of protesting against their former masters, so they would lend aid to the Irish lords as to play foil with their economic and theological rivals in England. Bingham captures Theobald Burke, Iron Dick's sea-born and battle-baptized son, and desperate for his release, Grace O'Malley appeals to a higher authority in Queen Elizabeth herself, via a secret correspondence, then a personal appearance at Elizabeth's palace in Greenwich in September of 1593. Despite urgings to O'Malley as to not appear, and those to Elizabeth to arrest O'Malley on sight, Grace O'Malley is announced and greets the English regent unbowed, declaring in a single moment her equal authority to Elizabeth. O'Malley is no English subject. She is no slave to any throne in Albion. It could be surmised that Elizabeth was impressed by the Celtic woman's sense of self and untarnished dignity after spending as many years on earth as O'Malley did, with peons constantly bowing and scraping, always seeking her royal approval. O'Malley displayed her Irish moxie well, and the two matriarchs were off and conversed for hours in private. Granuaile was more than able to connect and communicate with Elizabeth as equals, the two women sharing similar station and authority as leaders of men, as mothers, and as individuals who were seeking the very same thing as the other, and both prepared to take all measures to achieve their goals. Elizabeth pardoned Grace O'Malley, Theobald Burke was released, and became the first Irishman to act as an English governor. Richard Bingham was given specific orders to not interfere with Grace O'Malley or her affairs again, and was recalled to England in 1594. O'Malley would again promise the English to renounce brigandry, at least where the crown ships were concerned, and Elizabeth provided her a generous pension to offset her losses. Not content to spend her golden years on the land, the Dark Lady would lead her final raiding party at 67 years of age. Due to a series of mishaps, the Irish lords O'Neill and O'Donnell would lose all of their Spanish allies at the battles at Kinsale in 1601, and were forced to flee Ireland or face death in the English gallows at the end of a rope. The exiled lords would meet their individual fates in Spain and Greater Europa, some even arriving in the New World. Grace O'Malley, the Dark Lady of Doona, the Pirate Queen of Ireland, or simply Branwell to her brothers and sisters of Erin, died peacefully in her bed in 1603. The Island of Three Sisters would never be the same, as the world of the ancient kings descended from Atlantis herself, and the fairy warriors, and the goblins, and the little people, and the men and women of Ireland who wielded magic spears and flew with heavenly geese would be forever consigned to fading myth, millennia of history becoming forgotten lore in the wake of the Council of Nicaea's purging wave of redacted, desert-born faith. Granwell's Ireland lives on still, in the beating heart of every person whose family sailed from Erin's shores, as it does in those who still call the Emerald Island home. So raise a pint to Granny O'Malley, her men-at-arms, and her rival English queen, and hope they're smiling as the bad machine recounts their true Game of Thrones. Tuck Firalai!
I am Merida, firstborn descendant of Clan Dunbrog, and I'll be shooting for my own hand. What are you doing? Merida! Curse this dress! Merida, stop this! Don't you dare loose another arrow! Merida, I forbid it!
You're listening to Bad Machine on the PPRN Radio Network. Are you ready to get blitzed? Prepare yourself for life's uphill battle. Master Trainer Jim D's Fitness Blitz training techniques will make you stronger, more determined, and ready for any challenge. Burn fat, build muscle, improve your cardiovascular health with resistance training, mental conditioning, martial arts, yoga, and sports-specific performance enhancement. Train in your home, on Fitness Blitz certified equipment, or in your local gym. Take the Fitness Blitz Challenge. Begin every day by pushing your limits and taking control of your life. Grab life by the horns and reach for your ideal potential. Dive into a new concept in total health and competitive activity. Challenge yourself to be better and dare not to fail with Fitness Blitz. Learn more at www.fitnessblitztv or by calling 917-804-6589. Begin your quest to be your best with Fitness Blitz today. The concept of a single god, instead of a polytheistic pantheon of gods, each assigned or attributed to an act, skill, or force of nature, was first introduced, as we are told, by the Egyptian Akhenaten. Akhenaten was pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of Egypt. He reigned from 1351 to approximately 1330 BC, 3,367 years ago. Most know Akhenaten's youngest child by name, Tutankhamun, the boy king, whose collection of burial treasure, discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter and George Herbert, still fascinate museum goers to this very day. Akhenaten had a most interesting life. and he is associated with some of the more common names of